I'm going to make some homemade soap. I'm using a very simple and basic recipe for now. I use my own homemade soap and I'm running low, so I'm going to make a quick batch. All you need is plain, standard, normal vegetable oil, nothing fancy. 100% lye. This is actually sold as drain opener, but it's got to be 100% lye. Measuring cup, something to heat with. A lot of people use the stove top, but it's very hard to get the right temperature. This happens to have a dial to get the precise temperature. You want to cook the soap around 100 degrees, so this makes it convenient. And you need safety goggles, gloves, long sleeves, and long pant legs when you do soap making, because lye is extremely caustic and can melt your skin. So when working with this stuff, be extremely careful. My recipe calls for 16 ounces of vegetable oil. Very simple. That's basically 2 cups. Now again, this is a very simple formula I'm making here. You want to be very careful when working with lye. You want to measure the water out. In this case, we have just under 8 ounces of water. And I'm going to measure out 2 ounces of lye. So let me zero out my scale here. And you want to have a good kitchen scale. And the best way to do this is to take an empty envelope. You do not want to use metal. You also do not want to use your good kitchen utensils. The lye is caustic and it will destroy what it touches. So again, you should use gloves when handling lye. And I'm going to measure 2 ounces here. That is 2 ounces. Now in this next step you must be very careful. For this reason I'm actually standing behind the camera. Mix your lye into your water. Never pour the water into the lye. Put your lye into your water, a little bit at a time. Now you'll notice I'm using a stick. I have lost too many stirring spoons in the past to being dissolved, and I learned to use a stick. Stir in a tiny bit of lye at a time. You'll notice already this little bit of lye is bubbling. Now this gets extremely hot. Be very careful working with water and lye. There's a chemical reaction that goes on here. I should also note you should have ventilation where you work. This gives off some very poisonous gases. I'm going to set a thermometer inside and let that sit until it's down to 100 degrees. I want to preheat the oil to about 100 degrees. This thermometer starts at 160, so it's a little bit of guesswork. It's a little bit worn, it's old. Okay, my oil is heated up. Now very slowly, very carefully add your lye mixture to your oil. Now it's just a matter of stirring, continuously stirring, until you get what's called trace. And when that period comes, I'll show you. What's important right now is to continuously stir. This could take anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes to a half hour, sometimes longer, depending on the situation. For me, it's always been different. There's too many variables involved. Some people use an electric hand mixer for this process. It's your preference. I don't like to make a mess or risk spilling. I've been vigorously stirring for about 15 minutes now. You'll notice the oil mixture is getting thicker. There are little particles floating in it, and that's little particles of soap forming. You can see some foam starting on the edges. You can see a lot more particles of soap forming inside here. It's getting there. You can see a whole lot more foam forming on the top now. Now there's a whole lot of foam on top. Just to show you, it looks more like a soup now. It reminds me of a pumpkin soup. It's becoming almost like cream now in appearance. And you can see the liquid is not settling back down in as fast behind my stir as it was before. There's a soapy sheen on the surface of this now. I'm not sure if you can see this, but the surface is starting to look like applesauce now. You can see this has become very thick now. For cold processed soap, this is now ready to be poured into the mold. Now what I have here is a silicone bake mold. I use that because I happen to get it for free, and it can take the 170 degree temperatures of the soap. Now I'm not making anything spectacular here. This is just for me to use privately, so I'm just going to scrape the pan right out into the bowl, into the mold. Now this batch of soap is done. I would let this sit overnight with a towel wrapped around it and a cover on top to let it slowly cool down and cure overnight. Then after 24 hours you would remove this from the mold, and at that point then you can slice it into soap bars, and that I will show you in a future video. And then you would let it sit for 6 to 8 weeks until all of the lye has been worked out and all of the oil has been converted to soap. And at that point then you can use it as normal body soap, bath soap, or dish soap. The advantage of the cold process soap over the hot process is it's still liquid-like, and I can get a very smooth surface on a soap if I want. And with the cold process soap you get a much nicer looking bar of soap than with the hot process, which is sort of clumpy looking and rough and coarse. So many prefer the cold process because although it takes longer to cure, it gives you a nicer bar of soap.